Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial. So this is going to be a bit different from the usual. Everything that is presented in this tutorial has been inspired by the work of Tommy Oliver and Alimayo Arango. So thanks to them for sharing their method. As for the rest, it's purely original content. Let's begin. We're going to use a model that I've done. And first, let's try and get rid of that. As you can probably tell, it's a branch. The main advantage of this mesh is that it's already done, and I'll probably show you how in a further tutorial, but today that's not our topic. The flowers are pretty crude, it's just a plane with a color, and the vertex count is pretty high as well. But never mind, this is the branch, this is the model we're going to work with. So let's tab into object mode. So I have wind in the background, that's a force field, and if I press play, you notice that of course nothing happens. This is pretty normal considering there is absolutely no rig, so of course there is nothing for Blender to animate. Now if you remember the actual mesh, you're wondering how are we going to rig that beast? And that's where I have something for you. So I'm not going to go into how I obtained the guide that will let me do the work, but have a look at what it is. So as you can see, it's actually the structure of the branch. So it follows quite exactly the inside of every loop that you can see on the branch. So if I put that in the foreground and have a look at the branch, see it's perfectly in the middle. So frankly, if there was a way to convert that into bones and make it move, that would be great, right? So as far as I can tell, there is no way to do that right now, not that I know of anyway. So if you know of another way, don't hesitate to leave a comment. And in the meantime, we're going to go there and look at this thing. So this is an add-on I made. So right now it's still in alpha, but I guess I will be releasing that soon. And the reason I made that is when I did the first version of that branch, I had to rig it and I was actually too lazy to do that by hand. So now let's explain how this works. The very first thing we have to do is tell Blender where the root of that tree is. So what we're going to do is to add an object, and the root of that tree will be the vertex closest to that object. So let's add an empty here to letter lattice. Let's remove it and add an empty. Would have worked, I guess, but whatever. Move it a bit. Not necessary, but you know. And it's important to note that if you had several origins like this one, then there will be several roots, of course, and all of them would be determined by the distance to the reference point. So it's important to position it where it must be. So let's select it. And now it's done, we need to go to our guide, select the guide, and we are going to change the minimum value. And since the branch is pretty stiff, let's put that to 0.5 and generate the rig. So you can see that a bunch of things are happening here, and we end up having a ton of empties, so we can mute them. I'll leave the details of why there are so many empties generated for later. Right now, let's concentrate on the rig. So I'm going to select the rig just to make sure that, all right, we need to parent the mesh to the rig. Yeah, let's mute the guide and select the rig, put it in front. Now select the mesh, shift click on the rig, Control P to parent, and let's use with envelope weights. That works best for this case. Now if we have a look at what it did, if we select the mesh, we go to vertex groups here, and we can see that there are a lot of bones, and so a lot of groups have been created. So let's hit play, and voila, we have a simulation. Isn't that great? So let's marvel at it for yet another couple of frames here. All right. So now as to how this is possible. So the principle is as Ali Mayo and Tommy explained. So you just have a look at the guide here, and if you go to physics, you can see that it's a cloth simulation. Every vertex in the mesh has a weight, and that weight is between mean value, that's for the tip of the mesh, and 1 for the root. Every value in between is calculated between those two. If you look at how it is set up in the cloth simulation, you can go to shape, and you can see that I have a vertex group here that is pin group, and that vertex group includes all the vertices of the mesh. The other ones are inherited on the mesh, just ignore them. In essence, that cloth simulation is what is going to react to the outside forces like gravity and the wind. And all that empties that you see here are parented each to one of the vertices of that guide. Now, if you have a look at the bones from the rig, you'll see that every one of the bones, if I can select one in pose mode here, has an IK constraint to one of the empties. So if I want to sum that up from the start, the initial guide actually drives the empties, and every of the empties drives a bone. And in turn, the bones from that rig is going to drive a part of the mesh as calculated by the parenting operation that Blender did for us. As of now, I am not really sure how and when this add-on will be made available, because there are still a few things I'd like to tweak. If you want to share how you feel about it, whether it's going to be useful to you or not, if you want it or not, how you would be using it if you were to use it, then leave a comment. If you liked the video, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.